please remain standing? We will be now led in a prayer by the Director of Marketing at ARWAC-X, Mr. Beaumont Todd.
Good morning, everybody. All eyes closed and heads bowed, please. Heavenly Father, as we approach your wonderful throne this day, God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all those that are gathered here, O God, and all those that are on their way. We thank you for this conference, O God, this meeting of minds, this meeting of gifts that you've provided to all of your persons here. We pray, O God, that you let your will and your purpose flow freely in this day, that all those that are connected may benefit by your grace and your mercy. And we ask this in no other name than your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
All right, you may be seated and welcome. This is an exciting day in our company, and we greet you both near and far, all over the world. We would like to say hello to everybody streaming in and, of course, our invited guests. We are delighted that you all have came today, and we are super delighted to have the opportunity to have a special guest in our presence. Mr. Patrick Young is a world-renowned, amazing young man. He is a genius when it comes down to the special gifts of advising us on economic affairs. And we are so delighted that you guys are here on our inaugural Investor Economic Ecosystem Conference. It is going to be great. Get your pens out. You're going to need to make notes. You're going to need to take notes because we are going to load you up with a wealth of information. We are going to call a very interesting young man. I call him interesting because he is the brainchild behind ARWAC-X. Our brainchild serves as the Chief Technology Officer at ARWAC-X. He has been the most, sought after person when it comes down to speaking about technology and some other things for the females. Yes, that too is happening. and yes, we are very, very proud of him. His name is D.R.C. Ramming Jr. Please welcome him to the stage.
Hello. Well, thank you all for coming. My name is D.R.C. Ramming Jr. I am the Chief Technology Officer here at ARWAC-X. Okay, good. And today what I wanted to start by saying is that it is a pleasure to be a millennial in this country being able to give my gifts in this way. So we hope at ARWAC-X many more people will feel that they can come home and work in legitimate companies, adding value to people's lives. So I'm going to talk about fintech, and because there's a lot of different types of fintech out there, and they kind of get muddled together. If you're not a technology person, you hear these buzzwords, and you don't really know what they are. It's not all the same. But there's a ton of opportunity and possibilities for us in our country. So first number is $80.8 billion. So all of the fintechs in the world in 2023 are projected to make that in revenue. And that revenue is growing right now at 43% a year. So that means that in 2024, that's going to be close to 120 billion. And then it's going to grow again. And it's going to grow again for the near future, actually for the next 20 years. Here's another number. It's from Ernst & Young. 64% of people on the planet right now use fintech of some sort. So that means that the whole world is getting comfortable with interacting with financial institutions over their devices. So what is it that makes this stuff possible? So there's three things that have kind of all happened to make this possible. First is the internet. So we can reach anyone on the planet that is connected to the internet. That means anyone on the planet can be our customer. That's the first thing. The second thing is a global financial system. So we have the ability, because of all of this FATF and stuff that we don't really like to talk about on the regulatory side in the back office, but what it's done for the front office is it's allowed us to now reach out to new markets, touch new people, new customers. And then third, you have to have the skills in your organization of financial services and technology. So I found this cool graphic. It's got a bunch of different fintechs on it. There's blockchain, which is the buzzword that everybody's talking about right now. I'm not an expert in blockchain, so I'm going to leave that for the blockchain experts to talk about. But instead, what we're going to talk about is the other stuff. So you have the payments industry. So some people might have signed up for these mobile payments, P2P, PSPs. You have exchange, which is currency exchanges across borders. You have research, which is data. Digital money, which is what the central bank digital currency is. Online banking. Then there's investment and crowdfunding. So we fit in this, we do this. That's what we do at ArrowACX. But there's a ton of other fintechs out there that have nothing to do with ArrowACX. There's lending, personal finance, payments, retail investments, equity financing of different types, remittances, consumer banking. And I didn't even have space on my slide for InsurTech, which is insurance and technology merged together, and RegTech, which is the regulatory stuff. So there's tons and tons of opportunity. And not only that, from a business point of view, these companies, so these are different companies over here. This is the year that they're founded. I don't know if you could read that clearly, but the oldest one was founded in 2011. Okay? They're in different areas of fintech, very wide. Their valuations, their average valuation is $15 billion. So a company that is younger than most people's children, probably in this room, is worth $15 billion on average. So another couple of things. I like these kind of things. I'm an engineer by training, so I love data. Data helps to drive the decisions we make here. This line item here is the amount of money, capital it took before launch. So how much capital did you have to infuse in there before they were able to start taking revenue? On average, these companies, so it could be as low as $500,000 up to, I think the biggest one at the bottom there, Brex, was $56 million. So that was a lot of money they had to put in there before they were able to take revenue. But on average, it's 11. Total capital raised. These things can raise, like I say, billions and billions of dollars. So these are, when you find a niche, because these platforms are global in nature, you can really, really have some big companies. And then this other stuff is just Series B, A, B, and C, talking about what round they had to go to get through launch. I don't want to be too financial in here, but valuation, and then the last column I found really interesting was the time between founding and launch was on average 2 years. So it takes about 2 years before these companies are able to even see revenue, which is important because if we want to set up our country as a fintech hub, we have to understand that you can't kill the company. You got to make the ease of doing business in that first 2 years as easy as possible. Because 2 years is a long time for you to be spending money before you make any money. So here's some positives about the Bahamas. We have the SCB has set up the FinLink, which is a wonderful initiative to help guide fintech firms through the regulatory process, which is it's an initiative that should be supported. Also, increased access to financing. So we at ArrowACX, we basically focus on seed, Series A, and Series B financing. So we're looking at that space. But at a certain point, a company, a fintech company, if it's doing well, if it's doing successful, is going to need, checks of $100 million. So that means that in the later rounds, we have to be aware that as this company grows and scales, We have to be willing to let that money come in. Otherwise, the company picks up and moves to New York or to London or to San Francisco. Because companies chase the financing. And then, of course, always increasing the ease of doing business. That's an ongoing thing. So now I spoke about the macro. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we at Arawak X have managed to come to where we are. And because it's more than just having the skills, it's also structuring the company in a certain way that makes it work. So Arawak X brings investors and businesses together over the internet. And so we do it because we work in multidisciplinary teams here. No one has enough knowledge. No one is smart enough to be able to say, okay, we're going to do all of this. You have to focus on the skills and not the title. So there's a lot of, if you're from a traditional work environment, you have a title, you have a role, that's what you do. No, you can't build a fintech doing that. You have to focus on skills. A flat org structure. What that means is that teams are autonomous, meaning they have a goal and they have skills to go after that goal, and then you put resources behind that. It's not a top-down organizational structure. It can't work. You will spend too much money trying to figure stuff out. And then, of course, on the ownership side of the structure, every employee at Arawak X is vested in the company, which of course means that you're not just working that 18 hours for the company, you're working that 18 hours for yourself. So, this is our team. It's a lot of people in different positions. I'm sure everybody in this room knows at least somebody on this slide. Everyone from local to international. You see Patrick Young is right up there. He's our exchange advisor. And so I want to just break this down because otherwise I'm going to talk about our team generally. I broke it down into skill sets. So these people highlighted in blue, they have former regulatory or current regulatory experience as either a regulator or as a compliance officer or as in dealing with regulatory bodies. These people have finance experience. So you can see some of it is overlapping. These people have business experience. So they've run companies, have done different types of businesses in different industries. And then, of course, technology. You need technologists in your firm to do a fintech. And then lastly, which everybody forgets because they want to talk about the technology, customer service. You have to actually add value to people's lives. Otherwise, nobody is going to use your fintech. And so by pulling together this multidisciplinary team, we were able to do to get our company to this point since February, essentially, since we got regulatory approval. And so you can really speed up the development if you get your organizational structure right. And then I like this slide a lot because people forget that companies need different types of energy, different types of knowledge, different generations add different value. And so we got everybody in here from baby boomers to a couple of Gen Zers even. And they're colored the different colors. I'm a millennial, so, but yeah. So it's people often forget that because there's sometimes, for example, we were dealing with some regulatory, some backlog, and someone who had just joined the firm because they had felt comfortable was able to step forward and saved us, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks' time. And so those are the you want to set up an organization where people feel like they can add value and are actually able to add value. And so we work really hard to do that at Arawak X. And why are we doing this? Because we're going after a small chunk of this. Now, there are other chunks of this that exist in the world for other people to do. And Arawak X will support other fintechs as they develop. Because this is nobody can go after this by themselves. Industry has to go after it. And so, I want to say thank you. We, from the very beginning, have been setting up our company to be a publicly traded company. These things, like I say, can be very big, but we view ourselves as kind of a little bit of the infrastructure that was needed for business to thrive and fintech to thrive. Thank you.
Boss. We have a very important question to ask you, boss. Well, actually coming from the CEO. He would like to know, how is it he's a baby boomer? Could you please explain?
I mean, take a look at him.
Thank you so very much. Guys, it's a pleasure to work at RWACX. You don't understand. We have the best team. I know you guys come from good backgrounds, but we have the best team at RWACX. So is RWACX in the house today? I think y'all got breakfast, need a little coffee. Ken Donaldson, who is the Chief Community Officer. Are we in the house today, sir? All right. So moving along, we are going to introduce, and we are very proud of our two companies that are already listed on our platform. This particular individual, Mr. Marcian Cash, he is the CEO, and he has something very interesting to show you. And we're going to invite him here to tell us about his product. Guys, you want to listen to this and listen good. Like I said, get out those pens, take some notes, and welcome Mr. Cash for me, please.
FinTech, we have a new category. It's tourist tech. And what I'd like to introduce you to is our company, Baha Mar MiFi. We specialize and we have produced what we consider the world's first travel companion, destination-specific travel companion based on all of the technologies you guys use and consume every day. And that's geolocation services, Wi-Fi, but we also use augmented reality, and that is what kind of ties our platform together. We are designed to bring consumers and vendors together in an ecosystem that is so easy to use, so interesting, and so immersive that, and what we'd like you to do today at the back on your way out is to come and experience just a little bit of what Groove provides for tourists, all right? Our platform has many different profit centers, including not only advertising and commission, but self-guided tours, virtualization services, Wi-Fi, data, merchandise sales, and above all, a universal payment gateway. Groove was put together using the frustrations and insights that we gathered over a period of years. We did a whole lot of research. We felt what tourists were feeling in our marketplace and around the Caribbean as well. And with technology, we were able to answer those needs. We invite you to come and experience Groove. Okay? Now, if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to take them at this time. Or later on after the meeting, my team will be right outside, and we'd be happy to show you a demo. Say again, please.
How does the platform help people enable tourism-based businesses?
Okay, so what our charter was to try to democratize the industry. When I said we looked at issues in the tourism market, we looked at it from not only the consumer side, but also the B2B side. And one of the things that we found was that a lot of people who want to participate in the tourist industry don't have either the expertise or they don't have the tools that will allow them to reach the tourists, much less book tourists, invoice them, all of these sort of things. So we have a back-end system that we call a productivity suite, which we pretty much, we give away for free. So it depends on how you sign up with the company. But we have these tools that will allow smaller businesses and even larger businesses to reach tourists with reactionary advertising, because remember, our platform is online and it is immediate. It's always running. Mm-hmm. So let's take, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. One of the things we found is that a lot of companies, they'll go out with, let's say they're doing tours and they go out with half a boat, but they're not able to say 2 hours before the trip, we only have half a boat, so let's discount the rest of the boat. And even if they were able to say it, how would they say it? Well, because our platform is so rich, we found that tourists use it, and they use it constantly throughout the day. So that gives advertisers a chance to reach tourists that were unreachable before. Okay, in this marketplace right now, if you were looking at tourist media, you're pretty much relegated to the 2 or 3 publications by DePuch Publications. And we are bringing a whole lot more people into active participation and bringing those people to the market and to the advertisers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
My question is, can companies market on your platform only?
Can they market on my platform, on our platform only?
Yeah.
Yes, you can market only on our platform. I mean, one of the reasons we came up with this platform is we realized that this space is owned by international companies. And these international companies are not vested in the Bahamian market. They're not vested in any of the local markets. And because they're not vested, they have no interest in really trying to showcase all of those things that the tourists actually want. And what the tourists want is a locally curated experience. They want to have a friend in the Bahamas. They want to have somebody, a friend, a buddy who could take them around, okay? And that is what our platform tries to do. So in doing so, we're very conscious of, what the vendors are able to do, how much it costs, and we have different programs for different types of vendors, which makes it affordable. But what that does above all else is it brings the same things that the tourists want, which is this locally curated content, okay? The historical, the art, the culture, these things that typically we can't monetize. It brings them to the forefront and allows tourists to experience them. And because our technology is so smart, we are able to do things like bundle transportation along with it. So we can take disparate parts of a tour and bundle them together without the two separate vendors, that being the transportation vendor and the experience vendor, ever speaking. All right, so we act as that middleman, that coagulator, and we are also the payment gateway. So one of the things we also ensure is that everybody is satisfied. So we have that same A to Z sort of guarantee that Amazon does. So if you book on our platform, if you're not satisfied, we refund you. So all of our partners are aware of that, and we are looking to bring these stellar curated experiences, a lot more culture, a lot more history. I mean, again, from the research, we found that most tourists get absolutely none of that when they come. Okay? There is nowhere to get it. How do you get it? It is not accessible. We are making that accessible. And we plan to make it accessible in the Bahamas first, and this is the proof of concept, and then in the Caribbean and around the world. Okay? We have that niche. We have the technology. We've been developing it for 3 years. We've tested all the value propositions, both on the business-to-business side as well as the consumer side, and we know they work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thanks so much for your time. Please come and see us in the back.
Thank you so much, Marcian. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have our CEO that's going to come to the platform right now. And I am so honored to have this opportunity to invite him to the platform. He is not just a boss. His heart, I could speak of, is so genuine. When he thought about Arawak X, he thought about helping people. And that's what we are here from, to move the consumer to the owner. I'm sure of a lot of us, year after year, we'll say, okay, we make some New Year's resolutions and we try our very best to reach that. But we want, at the end of 2021, that the majority of Bahamians can say, hey, I actually own something. So please, welcome to the stage our CEO, Mr. Darcy Ramey.
Good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'm going to speak briefly because I have learned the value of team. And before I give thanks to anyone, I want to give thanks to God. Many of you know that I'm also a Roman Catholic deacon, and I view Arawak X as an extension of my calling and mission. In fact, during discernment, I was told, because I talk so much about business, that maybe I would finally be the person to help bridge our understanding of our social justice and of our mission of business and how the country could be positioned by one of my spiritual advisors. And so here we are. Arawak X exists because there are many people here, both foreign and local, that love this country. and want to see it prosper. And many barriers have been set up, sometimes by ourselves, to make it seem as if we are at odds with each other, when the truth of the matter is that when one person prospers, everybody prospers. So Arawak X is built on the idea of the rising tide carries all the boats. It makes no sense for me to prosper and you not to be included. And so what we have with Arawak X is the perfect opportunity, a perfect storm where the world's barriers have now opened up for us to be able to add value. Before, to receive financing, a company would have to go up to New York or one of the major financial centers. COVID, with all its disasters, actually has brought the world more fairer through fintech, where now those ecosystems of investors and of businesses have been broken and are reforming as we speak. And whoever is able to add value, to make it possible to bring this group together, is going to benefit in a very, very huge way, as DJ talked about some of the fintech platforms that are bringing together investors and marketplace. We already see it here with Airbnb. We're already seeing it here with that type of platform where people before have not been able to participate. Indeed, I saw some tourists in Foxhill coming out, and they had taken an Airbnb in Foxhill. Before, that type of experience was impossible. Well, this platform makes our country able to extend its borders. In fact, what has already happened is that the borders have been extended for a few. The Bahamas is like a great country, a little country surrounded by a wall. And around that wall is an ocean of financial resources. And that wall, so far, we have been afraid to let the waters in because it might overcome us. And as a result, we have allowed some to come in and abuse us, as we see with things like some of these foreign banks that are here and now being absolutely ridiculous after we've spent years and years supporting them and feeding their families in their country. So this is our opportunity to be the great equalizer where we add value. We also know that there are many guests here that would like to participate. People that are live in some of our communities, Life Key, Albany, that would love to participate in growing our society. They love the Bahamas as we love the Bahamas, those of us who've been born and raised here. But yet, we have selected barriers to stop them from participating. Well, this fintech is a way of allowing participation of all in the economy to grow this into a new Venice. And that is the purpose of Arawak X, to bring all of these stakeholders together. We call it nearshoring. To be honest, our financial services, which has declined, has been a matter of people using the Bahamas to move great portions of wealth here. Some of it, unfortunately, hiding it from other countries just purely for tax purposes. We don't even own that industry, yet we consider to receive a black eye to our brand for it. And we call it an offshore financial center. So at Arawak X, we're talking about a nearshore. A nearshoring means that we add value to the peoples of the United States and the people of Canada and the people of Latin America and the people of the Caribbean. We add value by having an ecosystem here where people want to be here, where they have correct professional services, a nice, safe place to live. And all of this is very possible. We have the authority and the power to do it. And we're doing it. This has been very, very well received. I've had talks with both the former and the present Prime Minister, and both have understood that this is a necessary step in the evolution of our people. And we need something to put a spigot in that great wall around us and allow certain things to come in and provide value for them and not be overwhelmed, but yet at the same time not be crowded out. But the most important hallmark of this thing is to allow everyone that lives here, whether they can only contribute $25 or whether they can contribute $10 million to this system. Indeed, we know that there are many, many people on the outside that want to nearshore here, bring their companies here, live here. We know that there are many people on the inside. And one of the reasons we chose Marcy, and we make no distinction. And while I am not able to say or to directly recommend an investment, and I wouldn't do that on this stage because, of course, that's against our regulations, you can see for yourself that that's a worldwide company that's being sprung from a native Bahamian that many of us in this room worked with. Many of us in this room know. And there are tons of companies that are out there in the Caribbean, in our country, and of course in the United States of America that are not receiving adequate financing because they don't fit in the old boys network type category. So we are providing a vehicle for the world to come in here, the capital raise, to live here, to add to our people, and also for our people to participate. And so, my dear folks, Arawak's nearshoring ecosystem, everybody in here fits in it in some way. Now, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the former Minister of Sports, who is going to bring remarks. This person we all know. If you don't know him, stand next to him and he'll tell you all about himself. Only kidding. But I have had the distinction of traveling with him around the world and in an official mission years ago to Cuba, where I saw a personal side of him, even though I've known him for many years, of how much he loved this country and how much of an internationalist he is. And I had several people from different Caribbean islands come and say that we want this person to speak, we want this person to lead us. And so we're very proud that he's here today to bring some brief remarks on behalf of the Prime Minister of the Bahamas. Ms. Dr. Danny Johnson, former Minister of Sport.
Thank you very much. I'll give it up for the great D.R.C. Raming. All of us call him Joey. I am going to be brief with three things. I want to thank him for his leadership in this arena. It is not easy when you are a pioneer, but he is a pioneer worthy of note. And so, my brother, your leadership in this is of the highest regard, and it is going to change the way we do business in the Bahamas. Congratulations again. In your program, it says you'll get remarks from the Prime Minister or a member of Parliament. I am neither, right, which is so good. But I can speak for them, which is even better. And so only three things I want to impart to you. The first part is really to thank all of you for coming to hear what this new company has to do. Joey could be my spiritual advisor. We grew up together. We went to school together. I'm a full disclosure person. My sister is here. She's a former senator in the Parliament of the Bahamas. And my sisters will tell you now, watch out for Danny. He's saved, but he ain't sanctified. So that means, he'll have some moments he'll come at you. And we have the privilege of knowing him, knowing D.R.C. all my life. I guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. So I can give you one story about him, and then I want to tell you one story about this company, and I'm gone. The story about him is he used to be the best table tennis player in Queens College. You know them dudes who turn up. He's also a judo master and all this stuff. He's like a crafted person from the Marvel comic books when he was younger. Really fit, strong, big hands, you know. And he'd turn up in the morning, we'd play, and lunchtime and after school. And the guy would turn up like these tennis pros. He had his rackets, you know, the real ones with the sponge on one side, something on the other side, 5 layers, different colors. And he had a pouch. You know, dude would walk into the room with a pouch, and he'd like, yeah, who playing now? And I'd be last fella up, I'd be like, me. And he'd play a trick on me. That's how good he is. He'd give me this racket, Reg. And on one side of my racket was some hard sponge with the little things look like a basketball. On the other side, wood. And he'd have me in the corner, pop. It's like you were sword fighting if you playing ping pong with him, you know. But he wouldn't stop. And so this day, anyway, we can play for real. And I hold him in the dance, and he got tired. He said, geez, you don't give up, eh? And I want to say to him today, people like me don't give up because we had to grow up with people like him, and he doesn't give up. Congratulations. The man does not give up. The next thing you should notice, so you have the people there from University of Bahamas, you should wave. That's the UB, their investment brand. You have Mr. Young, who I think is your keynote speaker today, who is, you know, a world-renowned speaker in this arena. I see Mr. Lexio. Wave, man. Y'all don't be shy. You're not on TV or nothing like that, I don't hope. Right? I see Mr. DeVoe. Mr. DeVoe is a very experienced person in this arena. Some of all these masters. We got Joe Curry in the back there, who was a former president, vice president of the Senate of the Bahamas. We have several of our friends, Mr. Barber from West Palm Beach, 2 of his guys from Tallahassee. We got Mark Finlayson, who was the one that did the largest business deal in the Bahamas for Kalik and Heineken, over $100 million deal. We have 2 interesting guys here from a company called SubNation. And SubNation is the future of esports. It is electronic sports. I was a minister of sports, and they trying to get me back to do what I used to do. And I don't go back to stuff I used to do. I just don't. There's a reason for that. I'll tell you that another day. And the future of sports is esports. They have just signed, you know, NASCAR had some trouble with the pandemic. No one could come to this, and they have, you know, crowds of 250,000 people. And so they signed an agreement now with NASCAR to do e-gaming. It's an e-sport. It'll be on your screen. And these events, instead of having 250,000 people following it, guess how much people follow an esports event? Guess for me. All you all a week. How much? I can come closer and ask questions now. I'm coming down here. How much you think, Mr. DeVoe? 1 million. 1 billion. Woo! Well, you're going big. I'm going back up there. They have like 50 million people follow these events. 50 million people follow an event. So this is the transition that is upon us. Instead of you going to this event, you buy a little ticket, you get a hot dog and a beer, and you sit there for 5 hours of people screaming and spitting all over your head. You can go to your own space, your own thing at home, invite your friends over, have the same experience for the same price. That's where the world is going. And they're coming to the Bahamas. So I want to, Seven and Ed. Wait, stand up and wave your hands so people can see you. SubNation, man. They don't play. Right? And, you know, when NASCAR is after you, I think you're saying something. Yeah, they ain't called me yet. I don't know why. The last part I want to share with you is us as a country. We are a $100 stock trading at $2. It pisses me off every day because I really want to be a big-time fella, honestly. But we are 100. The Bahamas has this brand out there called It's Better in the Bahamas. And it is. But your stock is trading at $2. And there's a reason for that. We got the wrong platform. Some of the wrong people selling your stock. That's it. That's the politics of it for me. And our politics in this new day is inclusion, diversity, and one thing, performance. If you can't do this, get out of the way. And I think you got some young people there. That's why I don't hang around old people no more. I get like daddy now. I don't afford no one older, but even my age, I try to duck them. Right? Because all them got arthritis. This one, yesterday, you got to come to the office. That one, back hurting, leg hurting, eye hurting. I said, I don't know y'all. This is a young country, and you have all of these young brains in this world who are ready to do stuff. And the reason our stock is trading at $2, we haven't done anything new with these new people in a generation. Let's be honest. We built some big hotels, and that's it. The world has changed. COVID showed us technology is going to run the world. And people, young and old, are comfortable online. Our crews game online. They ain't computer literate, but they can play numbers. Right? I'm talking 90 years old and 9 years old. They all ain't fooling me. And we could track it now because he got VAT. We know what you're making. So we have to do something new. And for me, I just want to congratulate a new company, new idea, new business model that allows people who have $5 million and a fellow who got $500 to invest in the same space, same time, same company. And so, Joey, from that day when we were doing our thing to this day now, I got a better racket now.
And that is why I always speak before him and not after him. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing my guest. My guest who's become a dear friend and advisor over the years. I'll tell you how we met. Years ago, I did a review of his book. His book, this was 20 years ago, maybe 22 years ago. And he had written a book on the future of capital markets. It was a brilliant book. It was so brilliant that he is accredited by some to be the father of fintech, and by others, because he predicted blockchain and crypto in that book. It is amazing to me. He may be the father of crypto. If so, I'm coming to, we need some investors in Arawak X. We would like to see some of that. But some people, in all seriousness, believe that he might be that hidden Japanese guy who wrote crypto, the crypto thing. That's how influential he is. He has a newsletter called Exchange Invest that goes out to all of the exchange world. And he is the foremost authority on exchanges. He's great friends with the head of the New York Stock Exchange, great friends with people in NASDAQ. He is a trove of knowledge. And I wrote a review on his book years ago in The Guardian. And when we decided to start up again, I reminded him of this review. And from then we began to correspond. And finally I invited him to be an advisor. And one thing that he immediately did was saved us a fortune. We were given a task to complete all of our rules in a modern way with the best rules possible for us. That has taken other exchanges 18 months. And we had to do it in 80 days, in less than 3 months. And thanks to his guidance and the fantastic work of my team, we were able to do the near impossible. It takes exchanges to get to this point where we are $25 million. And we've been able to get to this point for far less because of advice from him. So I want you to listen very attentively to him. This man is a pioneer and a prophet of financial services, capital markets, and he has a wide depth of knowledge. And so, without further ado, I would like to bring to the stage Mr. Patrick L. Young.
Financial centers and infrastructure of markets. He is a former exchange CEO, Cybex Romania. He has been a director of the world's largest institutional stock market, Liquidnet. Patrick wrote the first best-selling book on fintech, Capital Market Revolution, F.T. Prentice Hall, 1999. And most recently, Victory or Debt, Blockchain, Cryptocurrency, and the Fintech World, with a foreword by the NYSC chairman, Jeffrey Spencer. Currently, Patrick is an executive director at the Valerian blockchain listed on London Aquarius Stock Exchange, which is building a bridge between legacy and digital assets. Via his exchange creation agency, he builds exchanges and markets worldwide. Patrick serves as an advisor to RWAC-X in the Bahamas. He also publishes the daily newsletter of the Boss Business, Exchange Invest. In the past, Patrick has chaired the Global Financial Services Centers Conference and sat on the board of the Swiss Futures and Options Association and chaired the Blockchain Malta Association.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say one thing before you applaud me. Applaud this man. Applaud everybody from RWAC-X. I'd like you to stand up. Right now, please, everybody who's in this room, applaud everyone who's here, ladies and gentlemen, because you are shaping the future, and it is an honor to work with you. Thank you very, very much. Your welcome, DRC, has been magnificent to this country. It has been absolutely incredible to be in the Bahamas. To echo what the former minister was saying a moment ago, I actually have to say, I think he's underselling it. $100 stock, this is $1,000 stock. I don't know where it's sitting at the moment. I don't know where it's trading. But, well, let's put it this way. I'm just the warm-up act today, okay, for the ladies who are going to come this evening. Now, Darcy has told me I can speak for as long as I want, but I promise I'll be done by 6 o'clock, ladies, so that you get the stage properly. I'm only Irish. I can't speak like some of these fabulously fluent Caribbean gentlemen that we've had from the Bahamas this morning. That was awesome altogether, and for Naren as well. What a great introduction. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not, today we're making history. Let's understand something else. Patrick L. Young isn't making history. Patrick L. Young is observing history being made. In 10 years' time, maybe it's going to be 5 years' time, I already told DRC, I believe we'll be crowdfunding RWAC-X the movie. I've already got it in my mind. We're going to have Robin, who serves with RWAC-X, looking after all manner of things. He's going to be played by Morgan Freeman. It's going to be his voiceover as he talks us through the story. Enter stage left, our fellow Generation Xer, Denzel Washington, who's obviously, if he's cool enough, he's going to be playing Darcy Sr. It's going to be a huge movie. Obviously, the important thing we have to make sure is that we get my mom's favorite, Sidney Poitier, to give us a little cameo in that position as the most, I think possibly the most famous living Bahamian, certainly the most famous living Bahamian who hasn't graced a racetrack of some sort at some time. And bear that in mind. The brand of this incredible country that we're talking about, my mom's favorite actor, that's a lady who's 100% Celtic, ginger hair. If she spent too many minutes, which is about 15, on the beaches of this beautiful island, she'd start looking like a prawn. I mean, we are talking as Celtic, ginger-haired as they come. Her hero in the 1960s was Sidney Poitier. That's just one of the ways in which the Bahamas has impacted the world. Not just, by the way, in kicking everybody's backside by running them into the ground over umpteen different Olympics and other places like that. Not just by serving as this wonderful idyllic backdrop so that James Bond could be elegantly overdressed at all points in time. I'm delighted to see that in my due diligence I didn't find any dead people on any beaches at any of the resorts over the course of the last week, which has been a great encouragement. What I'm trying to tell you is this is making history. That's why I'm here, because I am ecstatic to be able to support RWAC-X. I am so excited and so pumped about what has gone on. It was very kind of you, DRC, to say that I helped you with rules, regulations, with all sorts of other stuff. But actually, the team, those who are in this room, those who are watching us on video from the RWAC-X offices today, you did this so far, and you're only warming up. And that's the thing that's really exciting to me, to watch what goes on. So, there was a beautifully generous introduction of me. There's a few things behind here you can see, which are some of the stuff I do. On the left-hand side, there's a mention of Mission to Run. Mission to Run was actually a startup organization, which I was a co-founder of. The most exciting thing is the chairman of that organization and the founder of it is my wife. And she's going to be along this evening for what I think is going to be a sensational and wonderful session with a series of wonderfully empowered ladies from the Bahamas as well, so you can look forward to Bata this evening. Nicholas Copernicus University, I was a lecturer there at one point in time in entrepreneurship and startups and things like that. Valerian Blockchain has been mentioned. It's a business which is listed on the Aquis Exchange in London. We're very, very interested in the way that we bridge the divide between the digital securities market and the rest of the world. That's headquartered in Gibraltar, just to the south of Spain. A couple of other things. I mean, I've built or been involved with the building of, my goodness, dozens of different exchanges at the moment. One of them was InTrade, which was an original prediction market. I was on the board of LiquidNet, which was the biggest institutional stock market in the world. And yes, I produced this newsletter called Exchange Invest, and that's me producing Exchange Invest the other day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the wonders of Wi-Fi, because I can assure you that photograph is not staged. I was actually sitting on the beach the other day enjoying the divine delights of the natural habitat of this nation and able to produce the newsletter the other day. We've been doing our conference call with our offices around the world. It's just been a sensational opportunity altogether, and that's why I'm so honored to be with you today. Now, when you think about it, this guy Christopher Columbus, took him 36 days. He came to the Bahamas. He spent 5 months in and around the Caribbean. It certainly started something. It started a history. I've been trying to work out for a long time why he spent 5 months around here and then why he decided to go west. I think after a few days on the ground, I now have the insight for that History Channel documentary that's going to come in the near future. I reckon the reason he decided to go west was because after 5 months he couldn't open a bank account. So he thought he was probably going to try, see if there was somewhere else in the neighborhood where he could manage to get something to work for him. It's a theory, you know. I mean, you can just imagine him standing there. He's got his Berlitz, Arawak dictionary. And it's like, yes, of course, we're all speaking the language of commerce, but for some reason we can't get a bank account. I don't know, just a thought. Today, right across the world, a baby, like this baby, is being born. They're being born in the hospitals of the Bahamas. They're being born everywhere around the world. Fascinating. That baby's going to live to be 130 years old. That baby is not going to live the life of the Generation Xers like D'Arcy Sr. and I. They're not even going to be born into a world that is remotely similar to what D'Arcy Jr. was born into. It's a completely different existence. D'Arcy and I, we like to say we're part of the bold generation. That's nothing to do with the follicles on our head. We're born analog, but we're living digital. Now, this baby, they're probably never going to have a driving license because they'll have a driverless car. They're probably never going to have a conventional bank account like we had because they'll have all manner of fintech alternatives, a myriad of possibilities in front of them. They are born not with a silver spoon in their mouths, but with essentially a lump of silicon. From their iPads to their computers to their mobile phone, they are a data magnet. If you think about it, we used to have the kilobyte kids. That's basically where we came from. I mean, they landed men on the moon with something that had about as much technology as this clicker in it, which is an incredible human achievement, Apollo 11 and all of those different missions. You go through the idea of where the early internet took us, and you had the gigabyte girls, the people who drove forward the start of social media. They invented the selfie, they were taking pictures. Wonderful and interesting things because they all grew the economy. This child is going to, in 130 years of life, deliver something around an exabyte of information. What is an exabyte? It's a 1 with 18 zeros on the end. Or, for those of us who still think that pocket calculators were a pretty nifty idea when we were at school, it's basically E for error, because it's not even going to be calculable on the old-fashioned pocket calculator. That amount of data gives you an incredible difference in life, because to them, sports and esports are just the same. They're going to see the opportunities in their world through nanotechnology, biotechnology, and all the conventional industries that we've ever seen are quite sensational. And where we are today with ArrowACX making history with this inaugural conference, which I am so delighted to have been your first keynote speaker today, is empowering that revolution to improve the lives of our children. This is something that is absolutely beholden to all of us to move forward. We have the power to make this happen. We're not delegating it to somebody else. There's not some other power wherever. Yes, of course, we want government, the political classes, to support, to help, to assist. But it is up to us how we drive that forward. And therefore, if you want to take just 5 letters with you today, I want you to succeed. Why do I want you to succeed? Why does Beata want you to succeed when she gives her session this afternoon? The reason is because we are pro-pie. We're pro-pie, we're pro-bigger pie, we're pro-bigger pie still, and the bigger we can make that pie, the more there is for everyone to go round. Already, the RC Senior and Junior have been emphasizing the message of growing what goes on. Truly, change is the only certainty in life and investment, ladies and gentlemen. And therefore, if you want to think about one thing that's been a huge change in recent years, obviously, the UK, Europe, they're fixated with what goes on in their back door, in their neighborhood. One of them was Brexit. That's yours truly here with my good friend, the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, just to my right. And the other end is now Baron Spencer of Alresford, Michael Spencer. So first of all, the reason I'm showing you this picture is because it still impresses me. And the second thing is because we had 2 self-made billionaires on that panel talking about the future of the world after Brexit 4 or 5 years ago at this conference. In 10 years' time, the panel here is going to have 2 self-made billionaires who came and funded via ArrowACX. Now let's leave the controversial history of Mr. Columbus and his banking arrangements and all of those sorts of things behind for a minute. But when you look at what's gone on in our history, in all of our shared history, it's really interesting to note this simple diagram. You kick off industrial capitalism around 1750 and the megatrend of growth takes place. Now that megatrend isn't slowing down. Quite the opposite. If anything, it's arguably accelerating. Why? Because we're no longer in the business of heavy industry. We're in the business of nanotechnology, of all manner of tiny, tiny possibilities. Micropayments, the microscopic world in every possible way. And that brings us to where ArrowACX comes into the whole story, because ArrowACX is an enabler. It is an exchange. I spend a huge amount of my time analyzing the world's exchanges. Occasionally I run the odd exchange. I advise a large number of exchanges, including ArrowACX, which I'm very, very proud to be part of this team driving the Bahamas forward. And we think about this. I formulated Young's pyramid a number of years ago. It's the world of the exchange business. I promise, for the 1% of you who are exchange nerds, this is scintillating. The good news is there's another slide coming in just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. But one of the things that's very interesting about this is, at the top of this pyramid, we have huge multi-billion-dollar businesses in massive financial centers. The Hong Kong Exchanges Group. The Intercontinental Exchange Group, which owns the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, there's a business that's worth $70, $80 billion. And yet all they do all day long is facilitate simple transactions for the rest of the world. Raising money for stock, some of them are in the derivatives business, and so on. The second tier is headed up by a company like NASDAQ, driven by a phenomenal woman, Adina Friedman. She's absolutely magnificent as CEO. And then we come to the third tier. And at the third tier, that's where we're sitting at the moment with ArrowACX. And you know what's exciting about that? The exciting thing is that at the top of the exchange pyramid, there have been lots of mergers in recent years. Very big companies have joined together with very big companies. But in the old days, it used to cost you a huge amount of money and time to get into the exchange business. Zillions and zillions of dollars. And that's why it was difficult for small exchanges to thrive. Thanks to the digital technology, which is driving our lovely exabyte girl and her childhood forward, we have a situation where this opening, the opportunity, is now available to build an exchange such as Arawak. And that's why the bottom of this pyramid carries on growing. Thing is, though, I don't know about you, but when I was listening to the presentation by Mr. Cash earlier on, I couldn't help but noticing something. Actually, what he's building, and I think it's a fascinating entity altogether. Please do your own research. I am not here to try and sell his stock. I'm merely observing the fact that this was the first time I'd heard his presentation. It was very exciting to say so. I'm making those comments in a personal capacity for the benefit of our friends and colleagues at the regulators here, because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to sell somebody's share. But you know, it's so interesting, because what is MiFi in many ways? It's a platform. It's an exchange. If you look at Uber, you look at Airbnb. Airbnb actually at the moment is the biggest exchange in the Bahamas, essentially. I mean, the biggest exchange that's operating in the Bahamas, because they don't own the homes that people are renting, that tourists are coming and using. They're a platform. This is therefore very important to understand, because exchanges are at the epicenter of commerce, and they are the model of e-commerce. They're the most successful model of e-commerce that we have, whether it's Allegro, which is a Polish version of Amazon eBay, which I'm sure you've never heard of, eBay itself, Uber, Airbnb, MiFi. The world of exchanges is growing, and that's why it's so exciting that we have this new model, technological, lightweight, nimble, Bahamian-owned, Bahamian-operated business within this country to drive us forward through Arawak X. Now here's a comment. I made this comment many years ago. It's a glib remark, but it's pretty fair. You know, the trouble with weather forecasting is that it's right too often for us to ignore it, but it's wrong too often for us to rely on it. In another variation of something similar, you could say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I think that's probably a great definition of my own career. Just to clarify, I am definitely not Satoshi Nakamoto. I am not claiming to have invented the Bitcoin blockchain, but I did write about the concepts of cryptocurrency, or at least the concepts of electronic money, 20-something years ago, in a book that was picked up by Darcy Ramming Sr. when he was sitting here in the Bahamas. Beautifully reviewed. Thank you very much once again for that great review from 20-odd years ago. I suppose that shows that things have consequences, ladies and gentlemen, so just be careful what you write about when you're on social media, because it can come back to haunt you years later. You can be, in my case, the case of my wife and I, you know, you can end up involved with something in Nassau in the Bahamas, having to have breakfast on the beach, watching the sunrise, all of those sorts of excruciating executive difficulties that you just have to live through when you're advising a business like Arawak X. The background to this slide, that building, that amazing building in the middle, it is a thing called the Palace of Culture. It's in Warsaw, the capital of Poland. There are a couple of satellite buildings that look remarkably similar in some of the Baltic states and other parts of the former communist empire from the post-World War II era. It sits today surrounded by skyscrapers. And it's surrounded by skyscrapers because Poland is a poster child of what you can do with an economy. When the Berlin Wall collapsed, Poland was actually already motoring on towards freedom. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's because the Berlin Wall was a beautifully telegenic moment in news, and therefore CNN loved the idea of being able to cover the Berlin Wall, whereas, you know, the Poles, they got together in a thing called the Round Table, which just wasn't remotely as exciting for television. I mean, a group of, you know, middle-aged guys sitting around a table, drinking coffee and talking to each other. But that was really where the revolution began in Eastern Europe, which led to freedom for so many people throughout that region. Now, the thing that's interesting about that is Poland. You might not think Poland and the Bahamas are similar, but actually I was looking the other day. Okay, there's a slight population difference. There's about 40 million Poles. There's about 400,000 Bahamians. Bit of a difference. On the other hand, if you think about it, the countries are both about the same size. Well, at least around their outer borders. The only difference is Poland's kind of filled in with land. You seem to be a lot of islands, which makes it slightly different in terms of topography. But from their model, from what they've done in the last 25 years, the last 30 years, you can see an incredible model of what can be done for economic growth. I call it the GDP 4X Secret Sauce 101. This is the most boring looking slide in the whole deck, but actually I think it's the most interesting of anything I'm going to talk to you about today. Gross domestic product, essentially all the stuff that your country does. Now, we have a kind of abstract relationship as individuals with gross domestic product. It's something that the government tells us what it was. It usually takes the government quite a while to do all the numbers, so usually they're telling us that this was the snapshot of the economy about 3 months ago, something like that. In fact, in the United States of America, they announced 3 months ago's economic growth numbers, and it takes them another 3 months while they refine it as they get all the data together in order to work it out, because it's such a large nation. But in truth, GDP is driven by us. It may be reported by the government, but we're the people who are responsible for making it happen. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. And here, in a country of 400,000 people, let's call it roughly 400,000 people, each one of us can do an incredible amount if everybody in this room wants to move forward. And that's the thing which is important about crowdfunding, because it could be $15 of investment, but it can manage to move things forward. And if you look at the Poles, they managed to grow their economy from, well, they're about 3.7 times growth in their economy over 30 years. How did they do that? The thing is, at the epicenter, they were the only Central Eastern European communist state to get the idea of using the exchange as the epicenter of your market. So the government came in and they legislated in favor of the exchange. Now, I don't mean they did it old-style communist fashion. They didn't go, oh, you've got to give all your money to the stock exchange and then you'll never see it again. No. They said, if we're going to privatize a business or an asset, we'll sell it through the stock exchange. Why would that be a good idea? Because it's transparent, because we've got regulators, people like that, who make sure that public markets are open and free to everybody. And that's why ArrowACX has such an interesting proposition, because it's democratizing finance for everyone. We can all go there and we stand in front of that exchange, and it's equal rights for everybody. So the government supported it. They didn't give it lots of money. In fact, quite the opposite. They left the founder, Wiesław Rozłucki, to scrabble around and do everything for himself on the first day of trading in the Warsaw Stock Exchange. To have something to show the TV cameras, they actually borrowed 20 computers, set them up around the outside of the trading floor, as it then was, had a trading session, then took them all back. He said at the end of the first day he wasn't sure whether he was a capitalist genius or whether he was actually reenacting a scene out of the Great Gatsby, out of the one of those 1920s con movies starring the likes of Paul Newman or Robert Redford, The Hustle, or something like that. The government did do a few things. It nudged investors, pension funds, into investing in the local market. That was a great move for Poland. 50% of all pension funds were invested in the stock market for the course of 25 years or so, until the European Union said, you've got to make it more balanced across the European Union. But it was a catalyst. It was an incredible catalyst to triple GDP in the nation. The nation encouraged investors. One of the things that's fantastic about wandering into the office that I see here, the Investor Participation Office, of which the first one I know is already open because we've been there in the course of this week of ArrowACX is being in the front line, educating investors, getting people together. I'll give you one statistic. Quite early in the piece, within 10 years, the Warsaw Stock Exchange had over 1 million investor accounts. It's 1 million people out of roughly 38 million in the country. To put it in perspective, while that number has continued to grow in Poland, in the course of the last 10 years, I ran an exchange in Romania 10 years ago briefly, and at that juncture, there were 21 million people, the population of Romania, so more than half the population of Poland. They had 60,000 investors. Fewer people than were in the Olympic Stadium during the course of, normal, non-COVID style Olympic Games. I mean, football matches, ball games get more people turning up for them in the United States every day, every week. UK Premier League matches. That 1 million-person catalyst drove the GDP forward. And moreover, what the exchange then did was they realized they couldn't rely always on this post-communist privatization market. They had to do something for small business. They created a thing called New Connect 15 years ago. 400 companies have been funded through that in the course of the last 15 years, despite it being a very, very competitive Eastern European and European landscape for small stock exchange listings. Those are the catalysts. Those are the things that drive the economy forward, and that's why we're here today. And the people making history, they're the management of ArrowACX, and all you good people who are here to participate in that ecosystem, whether you're raising money and developing a business, whether you're investing, or whether you're part of our partner network, those who are regulating from the university, etc., etc. And that's a vitally important thing to understand because, if I was going to say something here, I'd probably misquote John F. Kennedy. I mean, he's famous for saying, of course, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Ladies and gentlemen, ask not what GDP can do for you, ask what you can do for the Bahamas GDP. Because it's beholden in everyone here and all the population of the Bahamas to build the nation that we want to see. The government, I hope, will be superbly helpful. It's wonderful to see the former minister here this morning. We've had great messages, I know, from some of the private meetings that DRC has been inviting me to during the course of time. That's so welcome. It's so good. But at the end of the day, we need to drive it forward. Why do we need to drive it forward? Because of competition. Let's face it, very soon, and it will be a great moment, Cuba is going to be free. It's going to be shedding its communist roots for the last 50 years. Now, that's going to put Cuba back to about 1957, but at the same time, think about it. It's going to make competition very, very competitive in terms of things like tourism in this region, for starters. Bahamas is a great brand, wonderful opportunity, but that's why I always like to go back to this from the origins of the internet, talking about disintermediation, the removal of the middlemen. And in a way, that's what ArrowACX also is doing, because it's removing a large number of impediments to being able to do business and raise money. But understand that somewhere out there is a bullet with your company's name on it. Somewhere out there is a competitor, unborn, unknown, that will render your strategy obsolete. You can't dodge the bullet. You're going to have to shoot first. You're going to have to out-innovate the innovators. And that's absolutely vital that we take that message home today. But at the same time, let's talk about that Bahamas advantage. I hear the discounted stock discussion. I think it's $1,000 stock. I look at this great flag and I think it's a beautiful flag, actually. It's really intelligently put together. I think the gentleman who designed it, whose name I'm probably going to now forget, I do believe it was a Mr. Bain who invented it in 1973, having taken on board a lot of thoughts from the population. The Golden Strand, the rich, wonderful advantages of this nation surrounded by perfect aquamarine, blue Mediterranean Sea. But I like this black triangle. I love that bit. I know it's there to exemplify the people of this country. I know it's there to understand the grit and determination of the Bahamian people and how they are there to move the nation forward using the beautiful physical resources of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, what we saw this morning when we saw the MiFi demonstration is something else. The new demonstration, the new dynamic for the digital Bahamas, and that is driving the nation forward using intellectual capital. And intellectual capital changes everything because that puts you into a networked world. And the networked world means that during COVID times, when I would have not been able to land in this country, and I know there were lots of people who were hurting through the pain of COVID-19, I was able to sit at home in Malta, working away, stroking the cat, and dealing with DRC, Senior, Junior, the team, Ken, Robert, Fern, all of the people within ROXX. And that's a fabulously powerful network thing because there's nothing better than an innovation that's time has come. Those of you who've been close to me might notice I rather like cars, so you'll always get a random car example here. This thing, you may not recognize this, but this is actually 1897's version of the Tesla. Now, you go to Florida these days and Teslas are ubiquitous. You see them in all big cities. Everybody's got their electric cars. That's the way things are going. The guy actually sitting there in the passenger seat, he designed it. His name was Ferdinand Porsche. Some say he had quite a career after this electric car, which wasn't his most successful moment. You may have heard of him subsequently. That was simply 100 and something years too early. Now we've come full circle. We're back to building those innovations. But of course what the automobile did was it pushed us through a whole series of peaks. I mean, peak horse in the late 1900s, this early 1900s, in actually just down the center of New York. You can see there are horses everywhere. What happened? The automobile came along, changed that, changed the world of everything that's going on. More recently in our history, we've been through peak mobile phone shop, peak bank branch. Now there's an interesting number. You don't need to worry about the numbers that are here. This is actually quite an old diagram, but it shows you what's been going on. Because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, look at the palm of your hand and think about your life. Oh, actually, this is my life here, right now. Now, this is a great device, okay? It's about 25,000 times more powerful than all of the technology that stretched across several acres in America that got men onto the moon in 1969. It's got, well, we know. It's got a camera. I saw the ladies were taking a picture of themselves earlier on today ahead of this evening's session. You can watch YouTube videos on it. You can watch NASCAR on it. You can connect and play esports, watch esports on it without any difficulty whatsoever. Facebook, Instagram, DRC and I have had Zoom calls on it. It's absolutely amazing. Actually, there's so much functionality in this thing these days. The other day, I was checking something on LinkedIn, and I heard this buzzing noise, and I realized they've even built a telephone into this device. Now, for somebody like me who doesn't have a home telephone, hasn't had for 20 years, I don't really watch television because I don't need to. I've got YouTube. For somebody who spends most of his life on, voice over IP and all of those sorts of different protocols, it was a really exciting innovation. Where will these people stop? Sooner or later, they'll probably build in a transistor radio and we'll have reached full circle for all of the Generation X people. But what happened when we got our mobile phones? Even in 2012 to 2014, you think about your telephone then. I mean, it did more or less nothing compared to what it does these days. I mean, 2012... good grief, I was still pretty much welded to my BlackBerry at that point in time. Whoever heard of them? Bank branches essentially collapse because we all go digital. We go to digital finance. We go to fintech that Darcy Jr. was talking about earlier on. And that actually brings us to an interesting lesson. I talk about this in my book, Victory or Death. Banker power has peaked. Now, before everybody gets so excited and starts thinking, well, it's the end of banks, bear in mind, the modern bank came around because of people like this guy here, Luca Pacioli. He was one of the people, he's actually the man who popularized the concept of double entry bookkeeping. He didn't actually invent it per se. He was a kind of one-man Udemy or other educational interaction of his days. He wasn't as in-depth as the University of the Bahamas, but he wrote these sort of short ladybird books of all sorts of stuff you want to know, animals, stuff like that. But the truth is, 500 years ago, somebody came up with the great idea of the double entry bookkeeping. The balance sheet was born. We got our modern corporation, and that enabled the opportunity that when somebody came along with the Industrial Revolution, the body corporate was there to allow us to explode. And that whole process has continued through to today, virtually unchanged. So banking power definitely has peaked, but we're in a 500-year cycle, so we're still going to have lots of banks around in the near future, but we're also growing in alternatives to all of those different kind of companies. That, of course, is changing the whole way we look at our investment landscape. It's changing the whole way that, well, businesses like ArrowAC come along, interacting directly with the public, with the investor, offering the platform for investment, growing GDP through growing those numbers. Bear in mind the fact, ladies and gentlemen, we had a great call about not that long ago, 40, 45 days, 50 days ago. And DRC was saying, well, you know, we're not doing too badly. We've got I think we've got 4,000 sign-ups. It's not doing too badly, but, you know, it's a long way short of that Warsaw Stock Exchange million plus that you're always boring me senseless with. I think this is revenge. She told me to talk about the Warsaw Stock Exchange today just so that I can bore you senseless about the same thing. And I sat back and I said, whoa, 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 whoa. How many days have we been doing this? How many months have we been doing this? Oh, days. You've been signing up customers. I mean, Nadia has, I think, got a few grey hairs that she's covering up as head of compliance here because of the frantic sign-up there's been. 1% of the population of the Bahamas walked in and signed up for ArrowAC within days. We're currently at 2-point-something%. Now that is the people speaking to us. That's the people saying, we want that GDP growth, we want to play our part in that GDP growth, and we want to fund companies. And that is magnificent. And I salute you. I applaud you all, because those numbers are amazing. And understand this, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm off around the world talking to other places, and they're asking me what's happening in the Bahamas, I'm going to go, how long did it take you to get 2% of the population signed up to your exchange? Because I can find you this industrious, ingenious group of people who are using that, you know, that triangle, the black triangle on the corner of the flag. They're driving forward their economy, and they did it in under 90 days. That's a great thing. Now, of course, that provides problems. We need to think about second-order magnitude effects on the regulatory firmament. We need to think about how that's impacting upon how government has traditionally perceived what goes on in the marketplaces, and therefore how our colleagues in the regulatory firmament at all deal with it. It's a challenge. It's going to be work in progress. And it sometimes can feel a little bit like that fine art of deciding to change the engines on a jet aircraft. But you're not doing it when you're sitting at, you know, Pindling Airport. No, you're doing it actually when you're basically 2 hours out there over the ocean with a couple of men hanging down there sort of going, yeah, can you just pass the ratchet, please, while we're trying to move that second or third engine across on the jet. That becomes a challenge, and that's why it's going to be a challenge. There are going to be tricky moments ahead, but once you got 2%, you're moving, you're motoring. That's already an incredible critical mass of investors. But we can do better. Let's try and get that wall of money into the Bahamas, because with a wall of money that's investing in projects, you can do that 3 or 4x of your GDP without a problem. And that brings us back to the whole analog versus digital thing. This is the other day, earlier this week, we recorded an episode of my show, IPO Vid, stands for In Patrick's Opinion, where I introduce and interview financiers from around the world. Second time we've actually gone
out of our studio and live into the environment of an exchange. We were at the Intercontinental Exchange in London. They're the people that own the New York Stock Exchange just last month. We had the head of the London Metals Exchange, the man who trades more aluminium and more copper than anybody else on earth through his platform. And this week we were with Darcy on Tuesday at the Investor Education Centre. And it was a great opportunity for us to compare notes. Because again, we're in a post-television era. YouTube, the digital platforms, that's where we're at in terms of what's going on. This slide is quite aged even when you think about it in terms of how you interact with the world and create a data trail. You know, in the old days, you used to go along, you'd take a photograph, then you'd take it to somebody to have it developed, and they'd use all sorts of interesting chemicals, and then you'd print it, which is, you know, another delay, so then you could show it to your mom, or alternatively, you maybe took slides. So you invited your neighbors round, and your neighbors were all trying to find an excuse not to turn up because they didn't want to see 7,000 photographs of your trip to Miami or wherever it was. And then finally, you could publish it. Look at today. Instantaneous. You know, I can stand up here. We can take our selfie in 5 seconds. We can smile sweetly. It's on the internet. It's on Instagram. We can do a TikTok video. We can do a YouTube video within seconds. All building towards that exabyte of data that we're going to be able to generate across the world, whether it's on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok, whatever. Publish it to the world. Data trail left, right, and center, all creating opportunities. And of course, if you're going to use something like, I presume, MiFi, you're going to want to take your pictures with Blackbeard and send that around the world, further exemplifying why you want to be part of brand Bahamas. So I mentioned earlier, you know, the distributed ledger thing, that's real. That's just one of a multiplicity of massive technology opportunities that are in front of us. And I think this is a great statistic because, you know, a lot of people still are stuck in an old kind of industrial mindset. And there's a reason why the lovely cars that are driving around the Bahamas weren't built here, because it's difficult to get the scale. I mean, Japan has the scale, the United States of America has the scale, Germany has the scale, etc. Fascinating to look at the way cargo, transit, goods grew. We grew world trade 355% between 1975 and 2005. Global GDP at the same time rose 154%. For those who were around and remember 1975 did not feel like a good year anywhere because we had oil prices going through the roof, massive recession, all sorts of things. The economy pulled through. But look at that, air cargo, 1,400%. Why is that? Because you don't necessarily ship your lightweight electronics. You stick it onto a plane. In fact, you can stick a whole semiconductor plant onto a plane and fly it to somewhere else, and you can be building semiconductors within days if you want. So in other words, more than a third of all goods traded in the world were traveling by air at that point in time, $3 billion. But they were barely 1% of the weight of what we produced. Nowadays, of course, the world's opening up even more thanks to Alibaba, AliExpress. Exchanges, essentially, in their own way for finished commodities. Looking at fintech, one of the most important things to understand is it's a micropayment world. We're now able to pay for ever smaller slivers of commissions, of money, of transfers. You look at the way payment service providers, particularly in the rest of the world, have changed the movement of money. I moved some money just the other day to pay a bill in the USA. It would have cost me $18 if I'd used the bank. It cost me 51 cents through a payment services provider. More importantly, the PSP made money. Those are all things that are vitally important, and also, again, digital interaction. So this chart, a little bit dense. Let me just walk you through the really important bit, which is the world going mobile. This is a series of different financial markets applications aggregated together, and the sign up for those markets by device. You'll note nobody signs up to anything on paper anymore, and everything's done electronically. Just look at this here, this big blue line coming down here. Now that's a thing called Microsoft Windows. It used to be dominant in the world of computing in every possible respect. But now, of course, we've got iPhones, we've got Android phones, we've got everything else. People aren't using their computers, they're using their mobile device, which becomes vitally important in terms of how you interact with your customer, how you keep everything going, But above all else, you need to keep it simple. You need to keep simple everything you're doing, but accepting that this is a world of creative destruction. Creative destruction is good, by the way. Joseph Schumpeter, it was how you move from one thing to the next thing. How we moved from the horse economy to the automotive economy. How we've moved to the computer economy. How we've managed to develop so many new and exciting products around the world. And that's how the Poles threw out a lot of communist-era technology that was quite backward, and they brought together a new free market economy, and they grew their GDP by just under 4x in 30 years. Now, Bahamas has this incredible opportunity. When we go traveling around the world, which admittedly we haven't been doing that much of, unfortunately due to COVID. Let me say as well, just in case anybody's concerned, I know I don't have a mask on at the moment, but let me add that actually we did have some PCR tests just yesterday. So my wife and I are certainly quite clear on that front, as well as being fully vaccinated. So hopefully we're some distance anyway. I'm sure I'm not reaching you with any germs. But in this world of opportunity, think about this, Bahamas. I've been listening to conversations, I've been part of conversations telling people where I'm going on this trip. I know I've listened to Beata's conversation, and I've heard a lot of it in Poland. And I can tell you, pupils dilate when you say, I'm off to the Bahamas, in a way that they do not dilate when you're going to 75, 80%, 90% of the rest of the world's destinations. We go to Hong Kong, everyone goes, ooh, that sounds lovely. You go to lots of other parts of the world, great places, incredible countries, economic powerhouses, and people go, wow, that's really exciting. Okay, so where are you going to be next week? Can you make this call? Oh no, I'm terribly sorry, I can't, because I'm going to be in the Bahamas. The Bahamas? But it's true. That's the base of your brand. Now, your former sports minister tells us he reckons it's priced at $2. I'm not going to come here and give you a price. Again, I'm going to ask you to use the two most important words in the investor lexicon, due diligence, to work out what you think about that. But what I will tell you is, one, this is a world of opportunity. We have possibilities in biotechnology, nanotechnology, everything that ends in technology. But actually, I come here and I look at the streets of the Bahamas and I see empty stores. I see empty lots. I see people who are incredibly welcoming. You're fabulous communicators. I mean, I'm standing here and I'm listening to all of these earlier speeches. I'm listening even to Bowman's prayer, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I've got my work cut out today. Darcy's saying, speak for as long as you want. It's no problem whatsoever. And I'm like, actually, can I go home now? I could have had a nice day on the beach. No, really, it's a joy to come here and talk to you. It is a joy to try and explain and try and tell you how exciting it is as a foreigner to see the opportunity that's in front of this nation and to see the very empowered people, male and female, of this country. Now, at that point, of course, I'm getting terribly close to transgressing into Mrs. Young's territory. But this is a world of opportunity, and this is the most incredible opportunity for the Bahamas. I love this drawing because I was once on a yacht in Monaco Harbor. Pretty nifty thing. It could have stood its own ground in Nassau Harbor all day long, and people would have gone, whoa, that's quite a yacht. And I said to the guy, wow, what did you do? And he said, I just sold my business. I said, wow, what did you do? I was the third biggest manufacturer of toilet paper in the United Kingdom. Okay? So you don't have to be in nanotechnology, biotechnology, all these technologies. You can be in the most basic human resource that everybody needs at all points in time, and you can be coining in money. And that's why we need to move the economy forward, and that's why I'm here, because I'm an advisor to ArrowACX, because I want to try and help the Ramming family and all of you wonderfully empowered ArrowACX staff to create that economy. Victory or Death, that was my latest book. It has a foreword by the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, Jeffrey Sprecher, who is a great man and truly one of the great entrepreneurs of our age in a glorious age of entrepreneurship. Exchanges are at the epicenter of modern commerce. Exchanges are what can power our economy forward. They're agnostic to what you bring to them. All that you need to do is bring something that we can trust. Because the original motto of the London Stock Exchange, which serves as the basis of regulation to this day, meum dictum, meum pactum. My word is my bond. One of the lovely things, I have to say, but having somebody who gets up this morning and says, I'm the CEO and chairman of an exchange, and I also happen to be an ordained deacon, is you don't have to be a member of D'Arcy's church to manage to appreciate that if you've got somebody who's got that degree of regulatory authority, let alone the excellence of the Bahamas SEC giving him a license to run his platform, I think we can suggest that his word is his bond. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's grow this GDP. Let's move things forward. I'm a big race car fan. I love the idea of an esports company that's into NASCAR. That's just absolutely fabulous to me. One of the things which I remember in the Bahamas when I was a kid, I was reading about was Bahamas Speed Week. Sensational series of events. The world's best drivers were here in some of the world's best cars in the 1950s and 60s. Just one of many other things that brand Bahamas has sort of left behind along the way while still managing to do a great deal. This child was born today. It's going to live to be 130 years. It's a member of the exabyte generation. For those of us who may be, like D'Arcy and myself, born analog, living digitally, if you're a digital native, such as Junior and many of the other people who are in this room, many of you ladies, which I'm so excited to see, thanks very much for turning up this morning so that I feel supported. I know you're going to be back tonight for Mrs. Young, which is going to be absolutely sensational. And that's going to be, I think, the highlight of the conference. Because without the 50% of the population fully involved, whatever that 50% is, male, female, however you want to segment our economy, we do this together. We go forward together. And we do it with the support of a better world trading system than we've ever had in our lives. And that's why, thank you, D'Arcy, once again. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you in particular to many people from government, from the humanities, from the universities, from the investor community. Remember, I want you to succeed. We're not in competition. As investors, we're all trying to make a return, to grow the pie, make a better nation. And a better Bahamas is fantastic, because wherever I might be in the world, a bigger Bahamian economy is a better thing for the world's prosperity. So, however you want to adopt to the future of that child, I encourage you to move forward. My name is Patrick L. Young. You can find me on social media. I'm a kind of social media diva. I don't do as many selfies as my wife because she's beautiful and intelligent. I'm hoping that I can at least get into the intelligence sector. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to succeed. I want this economy to move forward. I want to see a better Bahamas still. But thank you for the welcome. It's been a joyous visit, and we can't wait to come back. So, we're merely 4 hours later, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for that homage to Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro's greatest hits. Would there be anybody who would like to ask a question at this juncture of me? Or alternatively, I'll be happy to answer any questions later. Somebody's on the move already. Excellent. Oh my goodness, I'm being surrounded by ladies on the move to ask questions. Now, oh gosh, I have to make a decision. I would love you to ask the first question, please, because I saw you moving first, although it may just have been I was angled in that direction. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Lovely presentation. Really appreciate it. Very informative. One of the questions that I have, actually 2 questions. One, is the SME funding gap unique to the Bahamas and the Caribbean? And question number 2, what are other nations doing for SME funding?
Ooh, those are great questions. Okay, let me take your first question. Thank you very much. The SME funding gap is real. It's everywhere. Okay? Every single nation in the world has a problem raising money for its small businesses. And that's why it's imperative upon citizens to get out there and do their bit. I'm not asking you to over-leverage yourselves. I'm not suggesting you should borrow your money or this, that, and the other. Put a little bit of money aside for SMEs. It's vitally important. In the rest of the world, there are all manner of initiatives going forward. Crowdfunding has been a huge success over the course of the last 10 years. I mean, good grief. Actually, it's more than 10 years since we were first speaking to some people in the Bahamas about the possibilities for crowdfunding, and that's why I'm ecstatic that ArrowACX has brought this forward in such a coherent fashion. Crowdfunding has been very popular in Europe, in the US. Let me add something, actually. This is super technical detail, so I'm terribly sorry that you have to go through this, but at least it'll soon be lunchtime. One of the things that actually has been built into ArrowACX, and I might have had a small part to play in that, is that you, when you have an account at ArrowACX, you actually own that stock. It is individually in your account. Now, why did we do that? We did it for a couple of reasons. One, because DRC is very, very eager to ensure that everybody is treated fairly. We're very keen, and I know that that's good news to Nadia and the compliance team, to make everything transparent. We're not using lots of nominees. We're not going to have all of those acronyms turning up at ArrowACX someday, you know, FATF, FATCA, and so on, going, oh my goodness, we can't tell who owns your shares. We're really, really worried you're in some way, shape, or form performing money laundering and things like that. Everybody is an individual account. Everything that it says in your account that you own, you own. And that's important because actually there are a lot of big crowdfunding platforms in the US, the UK, where actually they say, you own this stock, but you own it via a nominee in Delaware whose brother's uncle's left ear happens to be holding the share certificate on you. And it becomes complex. It's been made really simple at ArrowACX. What's in your account you own. So, to go back to the point, in Europe, we have had large initiatives where the European Union is trying very, very hard to move forward on SME funding. There is actually an SME stock markets initiative in the European Union, so a lot of the big exchanges have their own listing facilities. AIM, the Alternative Investment Market by the London Stock Exchange, has been traditionally the biggest SME market in Europe. Aqua Stock Exchange, where the company that I'm an executive director of, Valerian Blockchain, they're also listed. They're also listing a lot of small companies. So the reality is everyone has this same problem. Everybody needs to solve it. Here's an interesting thought for you. Say we get this going really, really well in the Bahamas, and we've got lots of projects funded in the Bahamas, and people are therefore have an excess of capital that they're looking to invest. There's loads of companies, the USA, other parts of the Caribbean, they need money. Perhaps we've got the opportunity to fund them too. So, in answer to your question, hashtag, it's complicated. Everybody has the same problem. Everybody's trying to find the solution. And I do believe that, thanks to the input of the Rammings, that they've developed a very elegant possibility for the Caribbean. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Lady.
Hi, my question is, do you think that the Bahamas is too small to do trading overseas?
No.
Okay, that's great.
No, let me expand on that a little bit, but it's a great question, okay? Financial centers, exchanges, trading, all those sorts of opportunities are nowadays digital, okay? In the old days, yes, you've all seen, you know, there's old movies going back from the 80s and before where people were standing on these floors and they used these amazing hand signals to sell and to buy and you need to shout. And, you know, one of the reasons why Chicago became an epicenter of the trading of commodities in the world, grains, cattle, all of that sort of stuff, apart from the fact that they grew lots of it around about Chicago, was the fact that Chicago had the population to bring 10,000 people every day into these amazing stadia where people shouted at each other and traded. Everything's electronic now. You do not need to have the tens and dozens of intermediaries. And actually what's great for the Bahamas is there's an opportunity to create a certain number of service jobs, not just in Arawak-X, that are moving people beyond merely having to work in, say, for example, the staple of tourism and so on, to earn more money, to get better jobs, to upskill in terms of what goes on. But look, the Bahamas has got the interweb. The lovely old internet, it connects to the United States of America, it connects to the rest of the world, it operates a nifty Zoom call. I can talk to Darcy and anybody on the Arawak team, wherever I am in the world, at any time of the day or night. In fact, the Ramings were in business in Baltimore just last month, and everything worked seamlessly in Arawak because they were talking to the office thanks to the internet. The internet powers all of us. We can be sitting downstairs in the basement, in our shorts, in front of our mobile phone or in front of a laptop, and yet we can be doing global business. So the Bahamas has a great advantage here because it's small, it can be flexible, and therefore it's quite the opposite. It's a great question, but the Bahamas can do whatever the Bahamas wants to do. You just have to do the simple stuff. My word is my bond. Trust, transparency, decent regulation. Do those things and then the world will trust you. They won't just love the idyllic beaches, the beautiful coves, and the amazing conch chowder. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. It's a great question. Thank you very much. Ooh, we got another question. Gosh. A man in demand today. I'm feeling good. And all these ladies asking questions. I promise, ladies, this evening I'll be in the audience and I'll ask a question of the ladies because I'm so excited by the sessions going on this evening. Please, your question.
Hi. How should I divide my capital when investing in crowdfunding and SME stock?
Oh, there's a great question. Okay, I mentioned earlier on. Thank you very much. Look, SME shares, crowdfunding is speculative. There is a risk. At the same time, there's a risk in everything in life. I mean, we know that. Lots of people here, we're wearing masks. We've had this terrible COVID pandemic, which please let it be over soon. And I have no idea about epidemiology. I just know about statistics, which is that generally speaking, after about 24 months, most pandemics tend to ease simply because of something to do with biology that I actually don't understand. But let's hope that my quack theology is right on that one. You want to build a balanced portfolio. You need to have a range of investments. You want to have some cash for the rainy day. You want to have some investment in some more sensible long-term things. It's a good idea to buy yourself a property when you possibly can, and that's one of the things I think is great about the Bahamas. I mean, you've got a very, very high rate of home ownership, for which I commend you, because therefore you've got somewhere secure to live. When you're investing in SME stocks, well, let's put it this way. Staying in one of these glorious, incredible resort hotels, I find it a little bit off-putting that when I check in, they hand me the key card and say, oh, by the way, Mr. Young, your key card is an unlimited line of credit in the casino. Now, the curious thing is, I do believe that if Arawak-X tried to do something along those lines, the Bahamian Securities and Exchange Commission would probably be armed with tasers and orange jumpsuits all round for the staff of Arawak-X within seconds. And you know what? They'd be right. When it comes to financial investment, you need to divide things up amongst a portfolio. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's slightly more stocks, depending on how much money you're investing, what you do. Divide your money up. Take small positions in the highly speculative stuff. If it's a huge risk, it might be that normally you invest $1,000, maybe today you'll only invest 100. Because guess what? If that thing goes up vastly, you're still going to make money. If it goes down, well, you know, $100, I mean, good grief, it's not difficult to spend that on, you know, cocktails and dinner if you're out with a suitably beautiful lady. You want to be pragmatic and sensible. Remember something, basic rule of investment. If you make 15 to 20% per annum for 15 to 20 years, they put you in the economics textbooks. Lots of people wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to make 1,000% on this. You know what? You should be in the casino, because that's maybe the place where you're going to manage to find that. You won't, because you'll lose money over time, statistically. Whereas the great thing about investing is, if you invest, you keep investing, even if you have a couple of doozies and some things go wrong. And ultimately, some things will go wrong amongst the companies that are here. Not because the management are corrupt or there's any sort of a terrible thing has happened, simply because that's life. Some of these products will not work over time. And what I would like you to do is divide your money up. Divide it into reasonable tranches. Only invest money that you can afford to lose. So don't sit there and go, well, I've got all this money for the kids' education and I'm going to put it all on one stock. Because that's actually as crazy as going down to the casino and putting it all on red. Not quite as crazy, but it's going in that general direction. Divide things up. Divide your portfolio in, say, 5 to start with, 10 as you go along. Don't try and invest in 150 things. Build yourself a nice, elegant portfolio over time and write it down. I mean, type it into your computer. Make a spreadsheet. Why did you invest in this? What do you expect to happen? And why might you exit that investment? Do those 3 things every time you invest. So for whatever reason, if this goes wrong, if the company doesn't get this contract they say they're going to get, whatever, I will disinvest. I will sell my stock. Do those things, you will be very safe over time. But ultimately, the one lesson we have is that in the long term, people who invest can manage to make money. And people who make money from investing can manage to further add to their lifestyle, to their savings, to their security, to the opportunity to fund their children in a way that you cannot do by simply going out and working all day long in your job. So, I hope that answers your question. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick L. Young. I will be here for a while. I will be here this evening. I really, really hope that we're going to see you this evening. I do believe there are going to be even more people coming out, because that's going to be a sensational session talking about startups, talking about all of the ways, the paths to crowdfunding with my wife, Beata Young, and a truly star-studded panel of Bahamian women. Darcy Ramming Sr., everyone at ArrowACX, keep up the good work. Ladies and gentlemen, I really thank you for your time. My name is Patrick L. Young.
Mr. Young? Yes. Thank you for that very informative presentation. We here at ArrowACX would like to give you a special thank you. We appreciate you, and we just want to present you with this token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely gorgeous. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. This is the end of our first session. Please don't run away. We would like you guys to mix and mingle. You could come and share your love. We have Mr. Cash in the back who would love to reach out and speak with you. Mr. and Mrs. Young is in the front. Of course, the ArrowAC team, if you have any questions, you can get your cell phones out, get on our platform. If you have not yet been there, it's ArrowACX, www.arrowacx.com. Click the link. You would want to definitely be a part of this dynamic move. Good evening. See you at 6, ladies.